It's 1:30. I'd like to call the March 18, 2013 meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Commission to order. We have roll call, please. Commissioner Witcher.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Littlefield.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Newton.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Hale.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Schuline. Here. Commissioner Jenkins.
Here.
Commissioner George.
Here as well.
Commissioner Yonkel.
Here.
Very good. Thank you. Can I have a motion concerning the meeting minutes of the February 18, 2013 Traffic and Transportation Commission meeting?
I move approval as submitted.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Witcher,
Second.
and we have a second from Commissioner Jenkins. Do we have any talk on this item? Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes of the February 18th meeting from Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. May I have your votes, please? Item is approved. The report on licensed taxis and record service will be presented in April. Next item is item 4, the consent docket. Do we have a motion on the consent docket?
I'll move approval. We
have a motion from Commissioner Witcher to approve the consent docket.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hale. Do we have any talk on the consent docket? Do you have anybody here to talk against an item on the consent docket? Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent docket by Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner Hale. Can I have your votes, please? Item is approved. Item number 5, items for individual consideration. To consider a recommendation to the Oklahoma City Council to assign record service contracts for 2013 to 2014 to 1, Aero Record Service Inc. for Zone 1, 2, Puckett's Inc. for Zone 2. Number 3, Car Cab Record Service Inc. for Zone 3, and number 4, 4A Record Service Inc. for Zone 4. Do we have anybody who wants to talk on this item? No, we don't. Do we have staff input?
All right, you've got our recommendation before you. We've gone through the request for proposal process to solicit proposals from Record Services, which the city advertised in the Journal Record in January. We received 4 responses to our request for proposals from the companies that were noted, and each has applied for the zones that they've had previously for the same terms that they've also operated under previously. So we're recommending approval of the item as presented.
Do we have a motion concerning item 5A? From our record subcommittee people, maybe?
I move that the recommendation be approved.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Jenkins to approve item 5A.
Second.
And we have a second from Commissioner Littlefield. Do we have any discussion on this item? Okay. So we have a motion from Commissioner Jenkins to approve item 5A, seconded by Commissioner Littlefield. Can I have your votes, please? Item is approved. Do we have all 4 representatives here from the 4 record services? I'd just like to say I've been here for over 5 years, and I'd just like to thank you all for the work that you do to the citizens of our area. When there's an accident or something happens, they're not concerned at that minute for their car or whatever, and you go and you take care of it for them. And that's a big weight off of their shoulders. 2 o'clock in the morning, rain, snow, you're out there doing a really good job for us. I'd like to thank you personally. I think all of us would like to thank you for the work you do out there. Thank you. Okay. Item 5B, to consider a request to establish a no parking anytime restriction. Oh, as you were. Let me go over here. There. Applicant. Shella Hutchins, Hutchinson Alliance, LLC, Hefner Village Homeowners Association, Inc., P.O. Box 22444, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73123. To consider a request to establish a no parking anytime restriction on the east side of Hefner Village Boulevard from the north curb line of Britton Road to the north property line of 9438 Hefner Village Boulevard. We have somebody to speak on this one. Ma'am? May I have your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Yes, sir. My name is Shella Hutchings. I'm the property manager for Hefner Village. Our address is Post Office Box 22444, Oklahoma City. We present this petition for parking on the west side of Hefner Village only. Parking from the nursing home parks on both sides, which makes it difficult for more than one car at a time to get through. We've had emergency personnel come out for one reason or another, and they've expressed concerns as well. There is access, or it is able to put one school bus or something can go through, but if another car is on the other side, you have to stop and wait. The concerns of Hefner Village are if there was a max exodus or anything, there's only one way, there's only two entrances into Hefner Village.
Okay, very good, thank you. Sir, did you want to talk too? If I may. Can I have your name and your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Yes, my name is Jeff James. I own the unit at 9727 Hefner Village Boulevard, and I'm simply here to, as with Shella, to reiterate the concerns we have. Per the agenda items, we had a full 76% of the respondents chose the affirmative, and I realize there was a dissenting opinion. However, a majority of the non-approvals were actually non-responses. The individuals were not available. I personally drive a 3/4-ton truck with trailer mirrors. It is really impossible to get down there with both sides of the street blocked. I realize it is a 32 feet right-of-way or curb to curb. However, when you consider that law requires, I believe, you have to be within 18 inches of the curb, there goes a good 3 feet right there. So with cars on both sides, it really is a blinking game. Come on, no, you come on. And, I think our request is completely reasonable in that we're not looking to completely ban parking in the street, but I think it's reasonable in the fact that we just want to clear up one side. And with that, I would thank the council for its time.
Okay, we have another person that wishes to talk. Ma'am, can I have your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes to talk.
Okay, I'm Dana Lakeglider. I'm the administrator for the nursing home at 5701 West Britton Road in Oklahoma City, and our phone is 405-773-8900. Our main concern with parking on one side, we have about 130 staff members, and we have about 146 residents that each have family members. We have a very, very tiny parking lot, which we try to save for resident family members, for hospice providers, for doctors. And we also try to stay out of the Hefner Village neighborhood. And with them going to one-sided parking, that's going to put my 80 staff members that are there at one time parking into their neighborhood, and then there's going to be cars coming and going at all hours of the night and day. And I know that's been a concern for that neighborhood in the past, that staff park towards their neighborhood, and this is going to increase them having people parked in front of their homes because we don't have enough parking without both sides of the street. So that's kind of our main concern, is parking issue with our tiny parking lot, and to try to also keep out of their neighborhood with no parking on both sides. So that's kind of our concern. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Sir, may I have staff?
All right, well, you've got our comments before you. I'll just remind you, you'd looked at a similar request from a different neighborhood a little while back for a request for a parking restriction on a street called Goodger Drive. It was a similar type setup where you had, residential area. The accessibility of the streets were being impacted by overflow parking from a local care facility. This is pretty much a similar application. The only difference is, I think, is that in the application you heard on Goodger Drive, the care facility actually sided in favor of the neighborhood that was requesting the parking restriction on one side. In a situation like this, what you're looking at is just a request from the neighborhood to kind of abate what they consider to be a nuisance issue. So action is kind of at the discretion of the commission. By removing parking from one side of the street, it still does make parking available, for if, the care center's got overflow that winds up on the street in case their parking facilities aren't large enough. An alternative they might look at someday might be an expansion of a parking facility on their grounds if there's room for that. But, by limiting parking just to one side of the street, granted it does reduce some of the on-street parking available, However, the primary purpose of the street in this particular area is not to serve as, an alternate parking space for local businesses. So action will be at the discretion of the commission. You've got a petition before you that indicates that you got 76% of those that responded to the petition signing in favor. So you've got local support for the request as it's presented.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning item 5B?
I move approval.
We have a motion to approve item 5B from Commissioner Witcher
Second.
and a second from Commissioner Hale. Do we have any talk on this item?
I might just comment and reinforce what Stuart has said, that the real answer to this is to increase the parking that's available for the care center. Is this a nursing home?
Yeah, we're landlocked.
Well, I understand, but at some point, this was designed per zoning ordinance for the proper amount of parking, and I don't know what has changed in your facility that has put that out of whack, but it does, obviously, 80 staff members at a time, probably all driving separate cars, that's putting a burden on the neighborhood that shouldn't be there. So the owners or operators of the facility might look into seeing what they could do to possibly increase parking or make an arrangement with the church across the street, if that's an opportunity.
Okay, do we have any other talk on this item?
Got a question for staff. Northwest 93rd Street between MacArthur and what would that be, the Lake Road? Are there parking restrictions on Northwest 93rd Street that exist?
Yes, it's marked no parking anytime.
Both sides?
I believe so, yes. It should be in the summary. Yep. If you look under parking controls on page 1, it says no parking anytime is posted on both sides of West Britton Road from MacArthur Boulevard to West Lakeshore Drive.
Thank you.
Stuart, what about the Lake Road there on the, what is that, the east side there? Is that right up next to the property line there? Could that be used for overflow parking if necessary?
Probably not, and the reason being is I believe that road falls into the area that's kind of like a reservation area around Lake Hefner. It's also, some of that roadway is a shared use. Well, once you go travel north of Britton Road, that street becomes, as far as for traffic access, it's one-way only. It's a one-way kind of a northbound, clockwise circulation around the lake. There are some spaces set aside, but they're typically, set aside for people that pull off and fish from the dam. The other side, you can't head south in that area because that's a dedicated bicycle lane. So I don't think a roadway over there could be used for overflow parking purposes.
And Jay, if you were asking about the dirt or gravel road that's immediately on that's service access that the city uses for maintaining that, I don't know what the technical term is, but it's some type of right-of-way or city property for maintaining the dam, and they store materials and such there.
I kind of figured as much. I just wanted to make sure that that's what the function was. Has your nursing home considered expanding the parking at the very front, right off of Britton Road?
Well, they looked into that, but they said it was some kind of egress with the road. Oh, I'm sorry. They looked into that. They actually talked to the church about parking, in the past, and the church really doesn't want staff in and out of there all hours of the day and night. And then they looked into, cutting off the grass right there, but they said there was some kind of egress issue or something that they wouldn't let them cut into that little piece of grass.
There's an easement there, very likely. So
Yeah.
I'm just curious to know if any other plans have been forwarded about trying to solve your issue.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, do we have any more talk on this item? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5B from Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner Hale. May I have your votes, please? Item is approved. Item 5C, the applicant is Oklahoma City Public Works, the apartment, 420 West Main Street, Suite 700, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73102, to consider a request for a no right turn on red restriction for eastbound traffic on Northwest Grand Boulevard at its intersection with Northwestern Avenue. Have somebody talk on this item? John? Just a minute. Yeah. We have
Good
two.
afternoon. My name is John Milner, and I am at 1120 Northwest 56th Street. Do you need my phone number, too?
No, that's
Okay.
fine, and you have up to 5.
Okay, thank you. And I am representing Meadowbrook Acres. I'm actually the president of the Neighborhood Association. I'm also representing a neighborhood to the south of us, historic Brookhaven. We have a representative here as well, Rogine, but I'll be speaking on behalf of both of us. And we are fully in support of the no right on red eastbound off of Grand onto Western. If you look at our neighborhood, we used to have 58th Street. We've lost 58th Street. We're down to 57th, 56th Street. 57th Street is a difficult and challenging intersection if you're going to make a left, getting onto, especially in high traffic times, anytime from 9 to 5, making a left is going to be difficult, which reduces us down to 56th Street, where our residents can get out. It also affects 57th Street, which gets us into historic Brookhaven. I believe an independent traffic study was done and looked at traffic coming off of Grand onto Western, and I think they found that if there was no right on red, it would allow enough pause in traffic to allow traffic to kind of come and go at 56 and 57, just enough time so it doesn't get backed up there. Because what happens is we have some commercial residents there as well, a Sonic, Camille's. What happens, and I'm the first house on 56th Street closest to on 56th Street closest to Western. What happens is between noon and 5 is we begin to get cars backed up there because one car at the front is trying to make a left, and it is not out of ordinary to wait 10 to 15 minutes to get out and make that left-hand turn. So we're just trying to reduce that. But I'm representing the neighborhood saying we're in full support of that, and so is historic Brookhaven as well. Thank you.
Okay, and Debbie Miller?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Debbie Miller with the Public Works Department. The city currently has a bond.
Ma'am, may we have your...
My address, 420 West Main, Suite 700.
Thank you.
We currently have a bond project that's in design for Western from 36th to 63rd, and in meeting with the homeowners in the area, they requested that we investigate the no turn on red there to provide a safer entrance and exit into their neighborhood. So I can answer any other questions you may have.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. May we have staff input, please?
Okay, you've got the bulk of our comments before you in the report. I can understand the nature of the request, trying to create gaps in the southbound traffic stream on Western Avenue. Gone out there and did quite a bit of extensive field observation. One thing that we did notice that probably doesn't come to light is, especially in listening to the discussion about making left turns, leaving the neighborhood, trying to head north onto Western Avenue. Northwestern Avenue, there's a strong northbound left turn demand. And if you look through some of the photographs that we provided in your report, there are times during the day when queued traffic that stopped at the signal waiting to go north, make that northbound left turn is stopped, and that movement is only a protected left turn. So right now we've got a left turn volume demand that would probably, under ordinary circumstances, if there is sufficient right-of-way, warrant consideration of like a dual left turn lane to help alleviate some of that. So I think that's it's particularly challenging to get out on 56th Street, but it's only because it's relatively close proximity to the Grand and Western intersection, which is operating kind of over capacity as it is right now. We did some modeling to see what the additional changes might be to the overall level of service, which is a measure of, individual vehicle delay at an intersection resulting from the type of control that's there. That eastbound right turn movement from Grand onto Western is not a significant overall component of the traffic stream going in there that would cause much in the way of change to the overall vehicle delay. But if it were enacted, it would be affecting that approach where for people who are eastbound, kind of southeastbound on Northwest Grand Boulevard, in the morning about 71% of all the traffic that's headed that direction is making a right turn and heading south on Western. And in the evening, it bumps up almost to 80%. So the requested turn restriction, which the intention is to create at least gaps in traffic gaps in the southbound traffic flowing across 56th Street. I can see where it would make, a change in that regard, but I'm not so sure that it may not wind up with increasing the likelihood of some cut-through traffic through the neighborhood. So really, it's kind of a discretionary matter that I'll let the commission discuss and consider.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion concerning item 5C?
I move to approve.
We have a motion from Commissioner Littlefield to approve item 5C,
I'll second.
and we have a second from Commissioner Witcher. Do we have any talk on this item?
I certainly do. This whole condition is a product of development in the Classen Curve and around the Chesapeake Energy Campus area. And for a very, very, very long time, both of these neighborhoods, Public Works, Councilman Shadid, myself and others have met many times and looked at this situation when 58th Street finally would physically be closed. It was approved for closure, I think, maybe about a year ago, and the actual physical closure just recently took place. 58th Street was the safest way for the residents of that neighborhood to get in and to get out. 56th Street has always been, I think a couple of years ago there was a study done out there where 56th Street was proven to be unsafe, not fulfilling the line of sight requirements given the speed limit, so it's always been a problem. What the neighborhood and what the developer and what Councilman Shadid and what the independent traffic study tried to do was to find something that would help make a safer environment for people to get in and out of Meadowbrook Acres. And the issue isn't so much the ability to make a left turn to go north on Western Avenue. It's difficult to make a right turn to get out of that neighborhood because of the constant flow of southbound traffic on Western Avenue. Grand Boulevard, Northwest 63rd, and Western kind of triangulate. They make a triangle. And people use Grand Boulevard, in my opinion, as a shortcut to get down to Western. And if traffic is going to stack up there to help make a safer environment for people to move on 56th Street, then I would hope that the law of seeking the path of least resistance takes effect, and those drivers can go down 63rd and Western and make a right-hand turn southbound anytime they want. Another concern is how the traffic will stack up at Western Avenue and Grand Boulevard and block 57th Street. Eric Wenger, who attended these meetings, made clear that if this is implemented and that becomes a problem, we can look at an alternative way of addressing that intersection, maybe moving the stop bar back or something like that. But this isn't a perfect remedy for a traffic problem by any means, but it's really the only thing that could possibly offer an opportunity when the lights at Grand and Western are red, and there's no right on red at this point on Grand Boulevard and Western, where people on 56th Street have an opportunity to at least make a safer right turn. One other staff element that was included in our report was the count, the traffic count on 56th Street. And I believe the high number, I believe, is because it counted the commercial traffic coming out of Sonic. It didn't count just the neighborhood traffic, which I would suspect is much, much less than what that is. So on behalf of these two neighborhoods and trying to make a safer environment for people to get out of that neighborhood, I think this is a good application.
All right, do we have anybody else who wants to talk on this item?
I'll make a couple of points. I drive this every day. I'm one of the ones that makes that right turn. And it already backs way up. I mean, in the mornings at 8 o'clock, it's making that right turn onto Western can be backed up almost to 63rd at times. I mean, at least to Classen. And, I mean, that intersection is becoming, for all the reasons you named, is just really a tough intersection with the Sonic turn-in coming south, or coming north, I guess it is, on Western. But with Stuart's comments about the 57th problem that it's going to create even more than it is now, and the cut-through, not that I'm against this, because I think it might possibly help, but I think you have to be ready, that the neighborhood has to be ready for cut-through, turning in on 57th and trying to miss that whole intersection. I don't think it happens now at all, or maybe very, very little, but I can see that happening in the future, that trying to get, because there's times when that can take 10 minutes to get from 63rd to make the right turn onto Western now. And if that turns into a 15-minute, going up, I don't think it'll change anybody going up to Western on 63rd and then making it right, because even that intersection's horrible now. But so anyway, I just think that if it's approved, may make things worse for the neighborhood in the long term.
What's really interesting about this neighborhood is the current cut-through traffic that already exists. That because there is no safe way or efficient way for traffic to go eastbound or northbound or southbound on Western Avenue off of 56th Street, Sonic patrons would travel westbound on 56th Street, northbound on 58th Street, and then northbound on Military, and then eastbound on 58th Street to take advantage of that safe way out, and now that doesn't exist anymore. So I think the neighborhood is used to cut through traffic. There's a Balliette's and 501 restaurant that's connected through a parking lot with the Classic Curve Shopping Center. It has egress directly on 57th Street. So that traffic has existed for quite some time. I think the neighborhood is used to it. I think that if it were to become a problem, we'd have to look at something else, I'm sure. But there's really nothing other than this opportunity to make a safer, at least right-hand turn on 56. And if anybody in the neighborhood would like to speak on the cut-through traffic, you're welcome to.
I appreciate your input on that, because that is true. People are going to get onto 57th or come off of Grand, steer into 57th, but I think what you might find happening is, since we do have already some cut-through traffic from that commercial district in our area there, I think what would happen over time is we may have a 4-week period where people try to beat the system, but then it's going to put them right back onto 56th Street, where they're going to have to get onto Western. And once they realize that that is no quicker, I think they're going to start trying to find the next path. Because all it's going to take is a few weeks of that getting backed up. And being the homeowner that's right by that area too, I'll be okay with it too, but I really think they'll eventually just go, this isn't any quicker, this is getting even worse. And they might trickle back down 63rd on into Western. So, but I appreciate that input, that is true.
What about doing a no left turn on Western, like coming in, like if you're northbound, where there's no left turn, where they back up going into Sonic, like you couldn't left turn into Sonic or into any of those two streets there during certain times of the day.
No left turn where?
On Western, because really that is the biggest, a bigger problem, or as big anyway, is the backup cutting into the neighborhood, coming up Western, into Sonic, where I can see where it'd be almost impossible to make a left turn out of your neighborhood onto Western. And I know this.
You're saying for those people traveling north on Western, which would be going into west into that Sonic, or
right,
I think there's a bank and another building onto 56th Street. I would have no idea. I couldn't even make something up. I don't know what the impact that would be, but I get what you're saying about people backing up.
That seems like that would help the neighborhood way more than this no right turn on red.
Was anything like that even studied? I mean, I'm not the expert. I know we had a traffic study done. Do we know if that was even involved in the study? That's good input, but
I'm not clear on what he's proposing.
Well, when you're traveling north on Western from 50th, okay, that all gets backed up with people turning left into the Sonic or turning left into those businesses that are right there before they get to Grand, make the left turn, where he suggested there might be 2 lanes turning left onto Grand at some point in the future, which would help. But it seems that is, the other side of the street is really where the hard part of getting out of your neighborhood is, isn't it?
Well, I guess you'd have to look at it.
I get turning right.
Right, but you have to look at it in 2 ways, because if it backs up going north onto Western, trying to make that left turn going west because of the nonstop stream of traffic coming down. So I guess really, if you were going to look at an order of how you were going to do things, if you made it no right on red, if you followed through the application today of no right on red onto Western, like we're saying, the steady stream of traffic that we get, if that slows down, then traffic making a left should be able to get in there and make that left quicker and not back up. I would think in order to, again, I'm not an expert, I don't know, but I would just think in the order of doing things, you'd want to cut off that right on red, and then if it continues to back up and that becomes an issue, then we stare at that issue at the later time. But again, there was a traffic study done. Those are the experts. I don't know if there was anything in there about that. I honestly didn't look if there's anything traveling north, but all good points. I understand what you're saying. Thanks.
Commissioner George? Yeah. The stacked up traffic that you're referring to isn't nearly as much related to people trying to turn westbound into the Sonic in the neighborhood. It's traffic that's stacked up from the red light at Grand and Western. That's primarily the basis of the stack. What's important for all of us to understand about this application is it's one part of a lot of things. There's a streetscape project coming down very soon, and there's going to be a light, a traffic control light at 55th and Western Avenue, and there's going to be another traffic light very nearby at Lombardi and Western Avenue, and that traffic light is only going to control traffic southbound out of Brookhaven neighborhood. But when the 55th light is installed and a no right on red takes place as we're proposing today, and the traffic light at Grand Western are all synchronized, that 55th and Western light should accomplish what it is you're suggesting. That will turn right. There'll be a break in the traffic northbound. So all the elements put together is the goal. One of the reasons why I think the primary reason why this application is here today is because it's the one thing of all the things in the streetscape bond that needed to go before the commission. And the intent is that all of these elements, once they're done, we have a much better running machine there than we do today. It's not just the question of will this no right on red solve all the problem. It's one part of a greater thing.
I hope it works.
Yeah.
Okay, I travel that area a great deal too, and I want to clarify in my own mind, there is an arrow that allows you to turn right going south. And are we talking about 2 different types of no turns on red?
Yes, the arrow that you're talking about is what we call an overlap phase. So when people are traveling northbound on Western and and say that they're veering they're making left turns onto Grand Boulevard, when they have a left turn arrow that's showing green, as you're headed east on Grand Boulevard, you also get a green arrow pointing off to the right. It allows that free right turn to continue even though the northbound left turn's running. So so that left turn or that eastbound right turn is on when through traffic on Grand Boulevard's got a green light, and then that right turn arrow comes up when northbound traffic making a left is also going as well. Because it's in recognition of trying to address that really heavy turn demand. Because, when we did our turning movement counts, we found that during the morning peak hour period, of all the traffic that was heading east or kind of southeast on Grand Boulevard, in the morning 71% was turning right heading south onto Western. And in the evening it's up at 79%. So that is the predominant movement. Now with respect to, you were thinking about like turn restrictions from Western, a left turn restriction from Western onto Northwest 56th. The city's project, the streetscape project, I believe it will include a center turn lane, which will help move those movements out of the through lanes and provide you with some storage. So Western Avenue will be somewhat widened. It'll still have 2 north and southbound lanes in each direction, but it'll also have a longer center turn lane.
Well,
Now, that won't necessarily address the capacity issues that we've got with that really strong left turn demand at Northwest Grand Boulevard, but it's one step towards helping address that.
Okay. My question still wasn't answered.
Okay.
Okay. Because I
Oh,
think-
okay, yes. The no turn on red is separate from that, because that means now when you pull up on that red, because right now, the way state law reads, you can make a permissive right turn on red after a stop. And so what this restriction will do is when that signal is red for people that are headed east on Northwest Grand Boulevard, when it's red, you cannot make a right turn on red. That's what the requested restriction will address.
Okay. But the arrow will still stand.
Yes, that overlap arrow will still be used.
And the time won't be shortened for that arrow?
No.
It will stay
That's
exactly
based off
as
the
it is.
left off the other road.
Right. Well, and it may be that it may be that as a result of having fewer opportunities to turn right, we might have to do some modifications to timing, which might increase the amount of green time we give to the eastbound movement on Northwest Grand.
Right.
It's kind of become a balancing act, because you can't just take away a right turn, something that helps serve that heavy right turn demand without trying to replace it with something else. And the only thing we could do is, it may be that we have to come back later and amend timing at that intersection to help make up for that lost ability.
Okay, I'd like to ask the homeowners association, are you aware of that right green? Could you come on up, please? Because you bring up a very good point. Are you aware of the right turn green arrow that's on, that will allow the right turn?
Yes.
Which is technically on a red, it gives
Yes.
a green flow. So
Yes.
cars will still flow.
Yeah.
So you're aware of that and you're okay with that still
Yes.
sending traffic your way?
Yes.
You just want, when there is a red break, for it to be a red break?
Correct.
That's all you're looking for?
Yes. That's it.
Okay, so that green arrow stays?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, just want to make sure. Thank you, ma'am, that was very good input. Any other talk on this item?
Real quick, has anybody considered, and I know this won't be popular with the homeowners, restricted left turns out of the neighborhoods during certain hours, 56th, 57th Street? As the homeowner indicated, that they can be held hostage by one car wanting to turn left that can never make that left-hand turn. If we stop them having the ability to have left turn, at least the people making a right would have a better shot at it. But I don't know, I know that's not a good fit, but when everything else comes into play, we can take that back off. But limiting it during the prime times, morning rush and evening rush, may benefit the people in the neighborhood overall when it's all said and done. But it may have to be coupled with the stop as well. It may need to have both of them to make it effective. But I'm wondering if that has been considered.
Sir, if you could come up and talk about what your all's feeling might be about that.
Can I sit up there with you guys? We'll just, it could, what I think that you could have had, because you were listening, thank you. You were listening very well there. I think that would be one aspect that maybe we could come back and visit if that continues to be a problem. Because, we're a pretty organized neighborhood. There aren't a whole lot of us in there. We can get back together and say, we're still backing up. We're still not able to get out. I think, at least for me, I don't make a lot of lefts off 56th Street onto Western. My work prompts me where I always go right. I know it happens, but I know from watching, we've got a Camille's and Sonic, people will come out. People that aren't familiar with that intersection will get out there and then think at 12:30 noon that they're going to make that left-hand turn, and you can't because everybody at Chesapeake Energy is leaving for some reason at that one time, and that's what kind of backs it up. So my suggestion would be maybe we could move forward to no right on red, and if we do begin to back up, we could revisit that and say, okay, I think we need to maybe limit times that we're turning left or whatever you're saying.
It's mostly an idea to keep in consideration. I don't believe that the right on red is going to fix the situation by any stretch of the imagination. However, it will probably help, but not as much as we were hoping for.
Right, and we're completely aware that this isn't, we're going to get, if this passes, all the issues don't go away, but this might help alleviate some on our way towards that Western Avenue streetscape, so.
Absolutely. My point is to avoid anybody holding anybody else hostage in their own neighborhood as a result of a left turn that they weren't quite aware of would be that difficult.
Yeah.
And But if it would help, I mean, that may be something, again, but, you know, and I've seen this before. One of the prime spots is in Yukon in front of the Walmart. If you leave Walmart going east in Yukon, there is a roadway there. You can't go out and turn left. They won't let you because there's too many other places. There's too much other traffic right there. But they have the benefit of having more lights in the area, which is what's been proposed.
Right.
That's good. So getting all these things together may finally make it so that you can get in and out of your neighborhood effectively.
Sure. I mean, it's fair to say that that whole intersection is extremely unique in how it's put up, that you've got those neighborhoods and everybody back there. So, but that's something we can future put in consideration if it does be a problem. Thank you for listening. I appreciate that.
Okay, any more talk on this item? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5C from Commissioner Littlefield with a second from Commissioner Witcher. And I have your votes, please. Item is approved. Item 5D, Violet, Principal, John Adams Elementary School, 3416 Southwest 37th Street, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73119, to consider request for 1, an eastbound do not enter restriction effective from 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. school days on South Woodward Avenue at Southwest 39th Street, regular traffic movement on South Woodward Avenue from Southwest 37th Street to Southwest 39th Street. Item 2, amendment of the effective hours on the existing westbound do not enter restriction on Southwest 37th Street at South Woodward Avenue from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. Monday through Friday while school's in session, to 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. school days, regulating traffic movement on Southwest 37th Street from South Woodward Avenue to South Goff Avenue. And item 3, an eastbound no left turn restriction at John Adams Elementary School's southernmost driveway on South Woodward Avenue. Do you have anybody speak on this item? Okay. Staff input?
Yes, you left me the easy part. We're recommending approval of the request as presented.
Thank you. Do we have a motion concerning item 5D?
Motion to approve?
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Newton
Second.
and a second from Commissioner Jenkins. Do we have any talk on this item? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5D from Commissioner Newton, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. Can I have your votes, please? Item is approved. Item 5E, Warren Peacock, P.E., WPM Design Group, Inc., P.O. Box 720936, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73172, to consider a request to change the speed limit on Southeast 149th Street between South Sunny Lane Road and South Sooner Road from 55 miles per hour to 45 miles per hour. Do we have anybody here to speak on this item? May I have staff? Oh, we do have somebody. Could you fill out one of the green cards after you're done? After you're done, can I have your name and your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
I'm Warren Peacock with WPM Design Group, the person that filed the application. We are in the process of doing some development in that area, and the reason we brought this request forward is our entrance, because of our limited frontage, will not meet sight distance because of the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit that's posted on Southeast 149th. It's an unusual situation because this 1 mile is the only mile in that area that is posted 55. Everything else is 5 to 10 miles lower. During our neighborhood association or our neighborhood meetings with the property owners, there was some people that had voiced a concern about the high speed limit and the safety of that. They were concerned, and I think they would appreciate having it lowered. But as development begins to put more pressure for traffic in that area, this speed limit, I believe, is going to become a real problem because it's a 2-lane rural roadway with a high speed limit. It's just a real safety problem. be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. May we have staff input, please?
All right, you got our comments before you. You'll see that this item actually came through an initial hearing before the Planning Commission for this particular development. As a part of what we look at when we get zoning and plating requests, is we do decision site distance checks at all proposed streets that are accessing our arterial system. In this particular case, this addition's got relatively narrow frontage on Southeast 149th Street, and there's not any location across where it abuts 149th Street where a street could be moved that would pass our site distance requirements based on the posted 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. In checking it, in also checking the area, we found there's a private street called Fisher Road that also doesn't pass decision site distance requirements. That's a street that's further to the west, closer to the Sunny Lane side of things. All the other streets will pass based on the currently posted speed limit, but at this point in time, the application that's going to Planning Commission has not been approved yet, and it's been referred over to traffic to take a look at it with respect to an alteration in the speed limit to address the site distance issues that are present at the proposed street. It's probably not unreasonable to think that we'll probably get future requests to amend the speed limits in this particular portion of the city. It is a little bit odd in that the requested speed limit has to be lower than the speed limits on the surrounding streets to either side of it. Of course, one of them is in the city of Moore when you're on the west side of Sunny Lane, and the one on the east side is will be 5 miles an hour higher because it's posted at 50. This is like one of the fewer sections that's still got a 55-mile-an-hour limit on it. At this point in time, I think, knowing what we know, action on this item is going to be at the discretion of the commission, but it may be worth discussing with the applicant the status as to when the addition when construction is anticipated, provided it's approved through the Planning Commission and accepted by the City Council. So, in the event that for whatever reason, say this addition is not pursued, there's always the lingering issue that Fisher Drive doesn't pass our site distance requirements, which, that's a street that's not going away, so that's one thing that you might want to consider as far as, taking an action to lower the speed limit into consideration at this point in time. So it may or may not have any bearing on the addition that's being proposed. But like I said, this item is something that was a product of the public hearing process through the Planning Commission, and it's just has to be brought to the Traffic Commission since it's a discussion on a speed limit reduction.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion concerning item 5E?
I'll move approval to change from 55 to 45 miles an hour.
Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5E from Commissioner Witcher. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Littlefield. Do we have any talk on this item?
I have a question. Stuart, would all the site distance requirements be met at 50?
No. Actually, the only no speed higher than 45.
Okay. Okay. Oh.
I was going to ask how far out the development is actually going to be.
Well, we are going back on the 28th to get our preliminary plat approved, and then we'll have to come back with our final plat. So you're probably looking at somewhere around 6 months before the development's actually completed, and they'll be selling lots and building homes.
Okay, any more talk on this item? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5E from Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner Littlefield. Have your votes, please. Item is approved. Item 5F, applicant Jack Madden, Facility Operations Director, Oklahoma City Museum of Art, 415 Couch Drive, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73102. To consider a request for 1, reestablishment of a passenger loading zone on the north side of Couch Drive from approximately 90 feet east to 185 feet east of the east curb line of North Walker Avenue at the main entrance to the Oklahoma City Museum of Art, 415 Couch Drive, and 2, the removal of two-hour metered parking spaces on the south side of Robert S. Kerr Avenue from approximately 30 feet west to 80 feet west of the west curb line of North Hudson Avenue with the establishment of a commercial loading zone in the same place. Do we have anybody here to speak on this item? We have nobody here to speak on this item. Can I have staff input, please?
Okay, we've got our comments before you. Like I said, this is what you're looking at is an application to reestablish a passenger loading zone on the south side of the Museum of Art. Prior to Project 180, there were 2 loading zones over there. None have been placed back in service. There is a lay-by or a drop-off area adjacent to the pavement right by their front entryway, which would be a suitable location for a loading zone, and we'd recommend approval of that. The commercial loading zone on the north side of their building is immediately adjacent to their service entry for the museum cafe. It would come at the expense of 2 metered parking spaces, but also as part of Project 180, there was a loading, there are no other loading zones immediately adjacent to the museum that would be usable for this purpose, so would recommend approval of the request as presented.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning 5F?
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept staff's recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5F from Commissioner Schuline,
Second.
and a second by Commissioner Jenkins. Do we have any talk on this item? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5F from Commissioner Schuline, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. May I have your votes, please? Item is approved. Item 5G, Timothy W. Johnson, P.E. Johnson & Associates, Inc., 1 East Sheridan Avenue, Suite 200, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73104. The request to consider the request for 1, the removal of an open taxi stand on the west side of Vince Gill Avenue from approximately 36 feet north to 80 feet north of the north curb line of East Sheridan Avenue. 2, the removal of 4 2-hour metered parking spaces on the west side of Vince Gill Avenue from approximately 80 feet north to 168 feet north of the north curb line of East Sheridan Avenue. 3, establishment of a passenger loading zone on the west side of Vince Gill Avenue from East Sheridan Avenue from approximately 50 feet to 168 feet north of the north curb line of East Sheridan Avenue. And 4, the removal of 2-hour metered parking spaces on the north side of East Sheridan Avenue from approximately 40 feet west to 90 feet west of the west curb line of Joe Carter Avenue with the establishment of an open taxi stand in the same place. Do we have anybody speak on this item? Sir? Can I have your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Good afternoon. Tim Johnson with Johnson & Associates, 1 East Sheridan Avenue, Oklahoma City, 73104. I'm back again on this item. As you recall, we kind of worked our way through many of the items that were in the suggested recommendations from the staff of we can do A or B. There was discussion about the taxi location that was proposed, and it did not align with the notice that had gone out, so we took a continuance. And in that time frame, we got to meet with Captain Williford and walked the site, looked at the location of the new place that we want to put the cabs, which is on the far east side in front of a building that is not used after hours. It's the part of the music lab. And then we also met with Mr. Gaskins, the representative for the cab companies, and discussed the location, and he was going to meet independently from us with Captain Williford. So obviously with the construction of the hotel going currently on the south side of Sheridan, we're going to have a problem there regardless until that construction allows that south lane and parking area to be alleviated or opened. But in the interim, if we can put the taxis in that location, I think it gives them a better sight view of the patrons that are coming out of the bars there on the north side of Sheridan, and perhaps allow them to pick up more cab fare and take people home safely. Short of what was in the staff report, I think we agree with the staff's comments, and I'd be happy to answer any additional questions.
Very good, thank you. Staff input, sir?
Okay, I was about to say, the only thing that sets this application apart from the one that you heard last month was the clarification on the location for the open cab stand, which will now be located in front of 329 East Sheridan. Mr. Johnson's met with that, or has got concurrence from the owner of that property that that would be an acceptable location for a cab stand. The only thing that kind of puts this item in flux is is the fact that, until their development plans are firmed up, it may be a little bit premature to actually make some of the changes to remove the metered parking and to adjust the cab stand location, but it could be done now, or it could be done at some time in the future, or it could be done close, if we get sufficient notice that they're moving forward with their building permit application, we can go ahead and send on the necessary ordinances at that point in time, and so it won't have any impact on their ability to open and make the modifications that are requested. But in the event that, their development concept changes or it's not pursued for whatever reason, then with that in mind, then everything can be left in its current form. So that's the way the recommendation is kind of structured, such that it gives you the ability to make the changes contingent upon a pursued building permit application by the applicant. So, but other than that, action on this particular item will be at the discretion of the Commission.
Okay. Do we have a motion concerning item 5G?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5G from Commissioner Witcher, and it's seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Okay, do we have any talk on this item?
I'd like to ask our legal staff. Stuart mentioned that the way the recommendation is structured, it makes it contingent upon that the development actually goes through. Do you agree with that? Or have you had a chance to look at it? Okay, fair enough.
Well,
I like the idea.
Do we need to, in the motion, do we need to say, once everything's approved and the work starts going, we'll do this? Do we need to say that in the motion, or can we just leave it up to staff and the applicant?
Tim, can you answer any questions relative to the timing of this particular application?
This has been a very long process getting through the Bricktown Urban Design Committee. You were there. And we've been through this process now for several months. So what the owner doesn't want to do is spend any more additional money without some sort of plan that says, yes, you can do this. What we will do after approval by this commission is we'll prepare a set of plans to be submitted to Public Works for approval. Once those are submitted and approved, we'll begin construction immediately on the street work, which will then allow Stuart to take these items to council for final approval.
Right,
and that's our understanding of his comment.
Right, because what you're working on right now is a concept plan, and you're asking for ordinances to amend the limits of metered parking, establish loading zones, relocate cab stands, and that sort of thing. But it's based on a development concept. I mean, they have not made their formal building permit application as of yet.
So in a manner of speaking, this body is making a recommendation that still needs to be approved by council?
Right. There are actions like metered parking is subject to the approval of the city council. But what we can do is if we hang on to it till we know we get a development application in, that means we don't need to eliminate the metered parking spaces and that sort of things that are kind of more conveniently located off of Vince Gill right now until they become necessary to move.
And Tim, your client will understand that.
Absolutely.
Because when he submits plans, we should be getting a PD plan from him. It's a private development paving plan. That'll be our cue to us that it's time to go ahead and send the ordinances on through. It just allows us to leave metered parking in place.
Okay. And then the other thing I wanted to ask, and I don't know that even if I've come up with a genius idea that we can act on it here, But with the concerns that we talked about last month, where Sheridan is sometimes blocked off for any incoming traffic on game nights and such, would the taxi stand be better on the south side of Sheridan? Or is it 6 one, half dozen the other?
I've visited with Mr. Johnson and Mr. Gaskins about this very item. We walked the area, and I think right now I'm going to work with my lieutenants that work in the evening. I don't know that either side is more, better than one than the other, but I will get them on board with working with, and I explained this to Mr. Gaskins on Friday, with, first of all, if we have to close it down, making it as short a time as possible, and then also, I think in the past, not the recent past, but in the distant past, he mentioned that there had been some times whenever they were able to work the cabs in and out of there, even with the road blocked. So we're going to get back to that practice. So I think all parties are on board with that.
All right, and no doubt when the new hotel is getting close to completion, we'll have a reason to revisit this anyway, with whatever they're doing in the right-of-way there.
Okay. Any other talk on item 5G?
Minor clarification. The relocation of the taxi stand, its location is agreeable with Mr. Brewer. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we submitted a copy of an email. He was out of town. I submitted that to Stuart.
I just wasn't sure if the 329 is actually where this landed.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other talk on item 5G?
So, Tim, you're fine with a little bit of ambiguity in it?
Yes.
I mean,
It's understandable. I agree with Stuart. I think that, the way development things go, sometimes they're on and off. We fully intend to do a plan through Public Works. That review time takes about a month, and we understand that, and then it'll take about 2 to 3 weeks to build this. So we have some time there to get to council.
Okay. Any other talk on item 5G? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5G from Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Can I have your votes, please? Item's approved. Thank you for your help, sir. Item 6, comments from citizens. Anybody else want to talk? Item 7, reports and other items. Let's go down. Ward 1, Commissioner Witcher.
I have nothing to report, but I hope that Commissioner Littlefield will have some feedback on the survey and engagement with Planning Commission folks.
Okay, Ward 2, Commissioner Littlefield.
So I'm forced to speak. That was really an enlightening experience, all the feedback that came back on those questions, and it has motivated discussion between myself and Chairman Kula to think about what to do next. And I think that the next step is to, Chairman Kula has assigned me the task of contacting the chairman of the Planning Commission and asking some questions. Are there things that you see that are missing? Are there things that you see that could be adjusted? Is there work that we could do that would be a positive thing? And that's going to be the next step. And I'll keep you all informed as to how that query goes with him. Besides that, a comment that I would like to make is Councilman Shadid and I had a conversation, or more than one recently, about our mass transit system. And one of the things that he suggested that I do in Ward 2, when we have applications on main avenues or on streets in Oklahoma City that are cross streets that have bus stops, when we go out and we look at these things, kind of pay attention to where they are and have some awareness of how their presence might affect an application for speed limit change or whatever. And I thought that that was kind of interesting, and it would be something that I would encourage the rest of the commissioners to consider as well. Thank you.
And Commissioner Newton.
A quick report on speed limit change for Stewart near my house that we approved back in December. Just to let everybody know that that has had a good impact The slowing down of the traffic around that area, this is Garth Brooks Boulevard, Cemetery Road between Reno and 10th Street, has reduced the number of accidents in the area. This isn't anecdotal. I mean, we see them, but there has only been one since then. So since the signs were installed, which to me is a reduction, we usually see at least one per week. Now we're seeing one per month. So it did have the intended result. So I appreciate staff's help with that and everyone else's vote for yes on that. It has helped.
Very good. Commissioner Hale.
Nothing to report. I did want to thank Stuart for doing the research to aid us in any speed limit reductions with the report that you furnished with the agenda. One other thing, the new signs on May and 104th are up. I have received comments that they really appreciate the yellow sign on top of the speed sign saying new, that it saved a lot of folks from getting tickets. So they do appreciate that notification. And once again, thank you for doing the research on that report.
And Commissioner Schuline.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Commissioner Jenkins.
I'd like to report in regards to a no turn on red at 50th and Lincoln. A notice was put up there on Lincoln, and I know for 4 months it had no effect whatsoever. People just kept making right turns. And then they had to put up another sign, one that I'm not good with yardage, but I'd say several yards west of Lincoln, but there's no turn on red. It's having a little impact on it. And that was my reason for questioning the other, how much it will really affect, and will we have to have another sign that warns people there's a no turn on red.
So maybe you can have somebody out there to just kind of look at that area.
I started saying, ma'am, I'll make a note of that, and I will get somebody out there to take a look at it for you.
Okay, very good. And Commissioner George. And Commissioner Yonkel. Okay. Counselor. Okay. Captain. Stuart. You have a couple
Okay.
of things.
As Commissioner Hale alluded to, and as Commissioner Yockel also mentioned earlier, we provided an informational item for you. It's an article that we got from the ITE publication. It's a model for setting credible speed limits in urban areas. Now, granted, it's a Canadian publication, which makes it a very fine publication regardless. This particular article, though, addresses kind of a psychological aspect to setting speed limits, because unlike a lot of other aspects of engineering, whereby, like, if you're designing a drainage facility or building a structure, I mean, there are certain physical properties that you can't get around. I mean, gravity is a constant, density of water pretty much a constant. Human behavior is wholly unpredictable, and the last thing it is a constant. And so what this article does is it kind of breaks down, or kind of looks at driver behavior on mostly arterial roads based on how they present themselves to drivers. So I think what we're going to be doing is we are going to be running a little bit of testing of this. When we get future applications looking at speed limit changes on some of the arterials, we'll probably use this as an assessment tool and provide you with our estimation of what, using this particular proposed method, what kind of speed limit may be a reasonable one to set on certain arterials. So it'll just give you a little bit more, something else to look at and consider when you get a request. But I just provided it for your information, that you've got interest in the notion of getting a better understanding or getting a kind of a broader set of tools to use when evaluating applications. So this is just one step towards that end. I'm sorry? Yes, and you've also got our standard report on parking restrictions and yields, which we can do administratively, that's just provided for your information.
Okay. Does anybody have any other comments? Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
We have a motion to adjourn from Commissioner Newton. Second by Commissioner Hale. Everybody vote. Okay. And we're out of here.